Republicans have voted 14 times to open up the country, and the Democrats have voted 14 times to hurt the country, really.
After so many failed votes, it's clear we need to try something different.
God, please give me patience, because if God gives me strength, I'm going to need bail money.
What Senator Schumer offered up today is what we've wanted all along, to stop millions of Americans from going over the health care cliff.
This idea of flooding insurance companies for another year to open up the government is ridiculous, is political terrorism, and it needs to stop.
Well, it's still going back and forth. There are Republicans who believe that there's a compromise in the works that passes some appropriations bills, as well as a continuation of the continuing resolution through January. That's still pending. Here's the Democrats' proposal. You just heard Lindsey Graham talk about: reopen the government with clean CR, bipartisan minibus, clean one-year extension of the existing Obamacare ACA tax credits, simple continuation of current law to ensure families shopping for health coverage aren't hit with skyrocketing costs, establish a bipartisan committee to continue negotiations on long-term reforms to address health care affordability. Here is the House Minority Leader on that issue in the middle.
A one-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits is not acceptable. It's a non-starter. Like, what world are these MAGA extremists living in right now? To think that Democrats are going to go along with a one-year extension from a group of people, meaning the Republicans, who just permanently extended massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. It's a laughable proposition.
Well, there's the proposal on the table from the Democrats. That was 1 month ago. Let's bring in our panel. Matthew Continetti, scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, Wall Street Journal opinion columnist, USA Today White House correspondent Francesca Chambers, and Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics co-founder and president. You know, Matthew, sometimes I think politicians don't know that we have the ability to go backwards and find sound bites. I don't know.
Like a time machine. Well, yeah. I think that was an important clip, Brett, because it shows there is some movement on the Democratic side. They've dropped their demands to restore the changes to Medicaid that were in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and now we have this proposal from Schumer for just the one-year extension of the Obamacare credits. And that's a ludicrous proposal, and Senator Thune was right to say no to it. He should have quoted Michael Corleone from Godfather Part 2 and say, "Senator, my offer is this: nothing." It's ridiculous that the Democrats are holding Americans hostage and shutting down the government for a subsidy that they've been promised to vote on separately. So I think right now the point is to put the pressure on the red state Democrats. You saw one of them. They're the ones most likely to break.
Right. Francesca, it's important we always point this out. Obamacare exchanges were supposed to drive prices down in health care. They didn't. So the subsidies were added to help people deal with costs, and those subsidies are expiring. And that's where we are. There's a lot of question about how states are dealing with this, how money is being spent in all these different places with these subsidies and the additional costs, which you heard Lindsey Graham talk about. Politico, this is the plan on the Republican side to end the shutdown. Thune and the GOP are undoubtedly hoping the added spending bills will ramp up the pressure and convince enough Democrats to join with Republicans to end the shutdown. But Democrats, encouraged by election wins Tuesday, have continued to dig their heels in, demanding an extension of the enhanced ACA subsidies to help control rising insurance premiums. So basically, Republicans are saying we're going to pass these big spending bills, 3 of them, along with a continuing resolution. Come on, moderate Democrats, come over to our side and vote. That's what they're saying.
But meanwhile, when it comes to pressure, the pressure that President Donald Trump has been putting on is Republicans to get rid of the filibuster at this point. He has said multiple times this week that he believes that's the way out of this. Now, you have heard from GOP leaders that there's simply not the support within the Republican Party to get rid of the filibuster. And then, of course, the president having Republicans over to the White House this week as he tried to mount support for this. But short of either, again, getting rid of the filibuster or finding those 5 Democratic votes, this is still in the same stalemate that it has been since the very beginning.
Yeah, Tom, the SNAP fight, we just had a federal appeals court say that they stand by. The government tried to issue a stay to prevent this mandatory spending of SNAP benefits, but the court said the federal government has to step in and pay those. They are, however, seeing a lot of pressure on the air traffic control and the situation with canceled flights and delayed flights really all over the country, and it hasn't even hit the 10%.
Right. And, you know, I flew out of O'Hare this morning and it was better than it's ever been. So maybe that's going to change in the coming, days and weeks. And that pressure will ratchet up. We heard Sean Duffy say, look, this is just not a cap. We may go to 15, we may have to go to 20%. And so the American people are really starting to pay a little bit here. I mean, you know, what needs to happen is the members of Congress, if you want to get the members of Congress to do something, if you want them to get to pay attention, you hit them where it hurts. Why are they still getting paid? Why aren't their flights being canceled? Why aren't they stuck in a room until they hammer this out? Because if they did that, they'd probably get to a deal. But right now, when you look at, you played the clip of Lindsey Graham, the disgust on the part of Republicans right now. Ted Cruz was on the floor just ripping the Democrats. There doesn't seem to be any goodwill left there, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for compromise.
Just in the past few seconds, Matthew, the administration has appealed to the Supreme Court, asking them to step in by 9:30 p.m. Given the imminent irreparable harms posed by these orders, which require the government to transfer an estimated $4 billion by tonight, the Solicitor General respectfully requests an immediate administrative stay of the orders pending the resolution of this application by no later than 9:30 this evening. So, you know, the fighting's happening on Capitol Hill. The fighting is happening in courts as well.
Yep, and they're likely to get that stay, I think, from the court. I'd like to see the Republicans be a little more creative, though. You know, they really have to label this not just the Schumer shutdown, but the Democrats shutdown. And this is one of those moments where I think President Trump could do some of those dirty jobs that he did on the campaign trail, whether it's the drive-through McDonald's or getting into the garbage truck, you know, showing that he understands that people are waiting in lines for airplanes and TSA checkpoints, and also people are making it difficult to make ends meet at the grocery store and the gas lines, even though gas is falling. That type of messaging, I think, would help stamp this shutdown on the Democrats and increase the Republican leverage and get us to a solution.
You know, there's all this talk about affordability. You know, the president points to this Walmart Thanksgiving meal and how they're laying out what the Thanksgiving meal costs this year as compared to last. And you can see the down in the 24, 25. There's people saying there's not the same food in the 25 meal and there's different kinds of food. But if you look at this 4-year inflation chart, Francesca, it is pretty amazing. As you see the amount of inflation under the Biden administration getting up to 9%, if you look at the chart with the blue graph, and there it's a mountain, and then it's taken down here. So, I mean, the costs clearly, as you look at that, haven't been coming down, and some people are not feeling it the same way as others.
And the economy was clearly a factor in Tuesday's elections, and we've heard the president since then talk about affordability and the need for Republicans to talk about the economy and affordability and what they're doing to try to bring costs down for voters. We've also heard him talk in the context of the government shutdown about the midterm elections and his fears and concerns that if Republicans aren't able to get more legislation passed, that they're not going to win the midterm elections. And he's also said not the 2028 presidential race as well. So the president clearly feeling the heat, just as Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill are, as well as this goes on longer.
All right, panel, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.